Hello again, everyone. It's good seeing you once again, and thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather, 6th day of March, 2022. I'm David Percy. Up first, hazardous weather graphic chart, the first one here. If I can get it to come up. There we go. Blizzard warning continues for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, Kaktovik, Barter Island, to about Alpine Airstrip, westward Alpine Airstrip. And that's for gusts 55 miles an hour with considerable blowing and drifting snow, creating whiteout conditions. At times, they'll be slowly improving throughout the evening, but dramatically improving after midnight when the warning ends. Otherwise, across the state, there are no watches, especially over the interior, no watches, warnings, or advisories anywhere. Panhandle, out Bering Sea, and the Aleutians. Looking pretty good, although storm warnings will be coming into the western Aleutians with a front. But as far as public warnings and watches or advisories go, nothing out at this time. But again, that could change without notice. And looking at satellite imagery today, you can see the clouds associated that brought all the snow to northern Cook Inlet, areas of south central Alaska, pulling off to the east. And snow showers diminishing from west to east and slowly tapering off even over toward the eastern border today. And that front kind of draped across the panhandle there, weakening, and extends into a low center south of Kodiak Island, a much weaker low. And then the low over the western Bering Sea pulling due north. It was pretty wound up there. That's pulling northward and weakening. And as a result, the front not making much eastward progress and it weakening as well. So far, no precipitation at the St. Paul Island. Brought about 0.07 of an inch. That's about it to AKwx. So quite a weak feature there. And otherwise, sunshine breaking out Kodiak Island, much of southern interior Alaska. But the clouds holding over the central interior, especially the Arctic coast and Copper River Basin. And rainfall amounts with that front kind of stalling out over the panhandle, about 0.9 of an inch over at Sitka in the last 12 hours, while Juneau had just under half an inch of precipitation, about 42 hundredths as of midday today. And Eagle, though, picked up about 1 to 2 inches of snow and some light snow also in the Copper River Basin, but that all diminishing as the system pulls. You can see the heavier clouds already up over the northwest territories of the state. And on the chart, you can see that frontal boundary that has since actually pushed a little farther to the south and east into the southeast coast and clearing with high pressure, strong high pressure ridging in from the Arctic southeastward in over the western interior, right on down into Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, and actually even into the Fox Islands. There's some ridging from the northeast that causing a weakening effect on that front and holding it back to the west as the low center weakens and pulls due north toward the Russian coast. So just a couple of disturbances dropping down from the Arctic, keeping the gradient tight enough there. Barter Island had winds gusting 63 miles per hour today, and Port Thompson Airstrip had peak wind gusts around 45 miles an hour. And the front, or the trough, weaker trough there over the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country brought northwest winds gusting to about 30 miles an hour at Northway today. Otherwise, winds 35 miles an hour along the southeast coast, Cape Spencer, Cape Decision, those areas seeing gusts in the 30s, lighter elsewhere. For tonight, that front will drop down toward Dixon Entrance, continue to weaken, but hold together enough to keep periods of rain or rain and snow mixed over the southern panhandle, becoming showers back to the north and ending. Dry over interior Alaska, just some lingering snow flurries possible early this evening, and then those will be gone by midnight there from about Eagle northward over toward the extreme eastern Arctic coast, but just variably cloudy to mostly clear over much of interior Alaska out into the northern Bering Sea, Chukchi Sea. System south of Kodiak Island continues to push moisture northward Mountain snow, valley rains for Kodiak Island tonight, periods of, and some snow into the Alaska Peninsula, but nothing too heavy. High pressure, light winds, some clearing skies, Adak and Atka, on up to the Pribilofs there as that low center really weakens just off the Russian coast. Then back to the west, you can see the tightening gradient ahead of a pretty active frontal system, and that pushes and brings storm force winds into the western Aleutians tomorrow and increases gales toward Kiska and Amchitka Island. Otherwise, Adak and Atka pretty light in the winds, 15 knots in the forecast. Kind of a break there, and that weak low brings some moisture to Bristol Bay, snow showers to the southwest coast, light snow showers, back to the Fox Islands, and periods of rain and snow along the weakening front there, especially Kodiak Island. Some of that moisture might make its way to the southern Kenai Peninsula into Kamishak Bay, but not much farther north. They'll have trouble even getting into Kachemak Bay. Mostly sunny, central northern Cook Inlet, right on up to the Arctic coast. Mostly clear skies, dry conditions in over the eastern North Gulf Coast from Prince William Sound and over the northern, at least the northern half of the Panhandle. And again, the moisture with that warm front, kind of the remnant frontal boundary there, keeping a chance of rain or snow over the southern areas through the day. And then that'll be gone on Tuesday. Nothing but sunshine for the Panhandle. Strong high pressure over the Northwest Territories dominating the weather there, as well as the eastern interior. Although clouds edging their way eastward into the central interior, as well as some moisture finally getting up into Cook Inlet in the form of snow showers. Areas of snow and snow showers possible over just about all of the western part of the state. St. Lawrence Island down toward the Pribilofs, southeast flow there. Rain or snow for the Pribilofs, rain or snow for the Alaska Peninsula. Rain at lower elevations for Kodiak Island, snow in the mountains. Same thing for Bristol Bay. And a little bit of a break. Lose of precipitation from Unmak Island to Atka, and then rain and snow increases with windy conditions from Adak all the way out to Shemya and the Komodorsky Islands. Otherwise, looking at lows tonight, anywhere from 10 to 20 below up over the northeast interior, north slope on out to the Arctic coast, and 0 to 5 below for the Kobuk Valley to the northwest coast and Shishmaref area, Buckland, down in toward Galena with temperatures either side of 0 in the Tanana Valley. Otherwise, pushing down toward 0 for the overnight lows in the Copper River Basin, 15 to 20 for the Susitna Valley and the Kenai Peninsula, mid to upper 20s for the Bristol Bay area, near 20 for the Kuskokwim Delta, mid-teens over the lower Yukon Delta to the or lower Yukon Valley out to the Delta, and mid-20s for the Pribilofs, lower 30s for the Aleutians, upper 20s to mid-30s for the Alaska Peninsula, mid-30s staying above freezing there for Kodiak Island, and dropping below freezing for the eastern North Gulf Coast, mid to upper 20s from Yakutat into Skagway, Haines, right around 30 for the Juneau area. They're near freezing for Sitka over toward Wrangell and Petersburg, to the upper 30s, Prince of Wales Island to Misty Fjords and over toward Stewart. Highs tomorrow, 40 to 45 over the southeast coast, warmest down to the south around Craig and Klawock, 46 the high forecast there. Highs lower 40s for the North Gulf Coast, mid-30s for Valdez, in the 20s for the Copper River Basin, in the 30s Susitna, Manuska Valley, Kenai Peninsula, some areas pushing toward 40 like Homer and maybe Soldovia, mid-40s for Kodiak, mid-30s to lower 40s for the Bristol Bay area, and near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Aleutians, and staying a little below 0 for the central and eastern Arctic coast, otherwise 5 to 15 from the Brooks Range to the North Slope, and in the 20s south of the Brooks Range, although Yukon Flats in the lower teens, Bettles high of about 18, 28 though for the high at Nome, and right around 30 there from Bethel on up toward McGrath and Nikolai. Lows the following morning, 10 to 20 below from the Yukon Flats on up to the eastern Arctic coast, and a little above 0 in the Koyukuk Valley down in toward Fairbanks, 0 to 5 for the lows, and near 0 for the Copper River Basin, mid-teens Susitna Valley to lower 30s down toward Kachemak Bay, upper 30s Kodiak Island, lower to mid-30s in the Aleutians, mid-20s for the Pribilofs, and in the 20s northern Panhandle, lower 30s down to the south. Looking at highs on Tuesday afternoon, above 0, even we're right around 0 for the eastern Arctic coast, but 5 to 15 for the western Arctic coast, and in the 15 to 20 degree range from the Brooks Range, and well into the 20s for the central interior into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, Upper 30s for the southern Kuskokwim Valley to lower 40s around Bristol Bay, and right around 40 for the highs for the Alaska Peninsula, mid-40s Kodiak Island, and mid-30s northern Panhandle to lower 40s south, and also right around 40 for the central Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather, marginal VFR, central eastern North Slope, Arctic coast, VFR to the west, and Brooks Range VFR. Area of marginal VFR, lower and mid-Yukon River Valley, then eastward along the Tanana Valley into the 40-mile country, and then VFR, southern Alaska, right into the Gulf, and marginal VFR over the southern Panhandle. Some IFR reaching Kodiak Island up to about Chiniak, and then down to Sitkinak, over to the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal VFR, southeast Bering Sea, Fox Islands, and up across the Pribilof. So good VFR along the southwest coast into Norton Sound, and from Atka westward to Shimia and Attu. And for the afternoon forecast, good VFR interior Alaska, all the Panhandle, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, all the way up to the Arctic coast, although some lingering marginal VFR on the east side there. And northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait, good VFR. And then marginal VFR central and eastern and southeast Bering Sea from about Atka eastward, the Alaska Peninsula, marginal VFR. Some IFR over the Togiak area into the southwest mountains and just east of the Pribilofs. And east side of Kodiak Island, IFR. And for the Tuesday morning forecast, batch IFR there, northern Bering Sea down to the Pribilofs and into the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta coastline areas, and then Togiak Bay and up into the southern Kuskokwim Valley. Looks like IFR flying. IFR now pushed up across St. Lawrence Island into the Bering Strait. VFR holding on, but slowly giving way to marginal VFR over the southwest areas, but still pretty good. Marginal VFR, southern Kenai Peninsula, but VFR, Prince William Sound, across the Panhandle. Some marginal VFR, Yukon Flats, and the 40-mile country. And then for Tuesday afternoon, increasing marginal VFR, western North Slope and Arctic coast, otherwise VFR for the central and east side. Eastern half of the state, VFR. Marginal VFR creeping up into western Prince William Sound and the eastern Kenai Peninsula, Portage to Whittier, possibly Girdwood, VFR farther to the west there, northern Cook Inlet, Manuscus, Susitna Valley, and Panhandle, VFR. IFR, northern Bering Sea, with some areas sliding into the Seward Peninsula, as well as along the Yukon Delta, and then up again across Togiak Bay into the southwest mountains. South side of the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Kodiak Island, IFR with a band of IFR into Kamishak Bay up the into western Cook Inlet. And IFR just grazing the west central Aleutians. Otherwise, Bering Sea now pretty well socked in with marginal VFR at best. Passes Anatuvik, VFR, good VFR flying for Adigan as well, either approach the entire day, Lake Clark and Merrill. A good VFR day coming up for Monday. And rainy, same forecast, VFR, windy, VFR, wide open for Isabel and Mentasta. And let's see, Tanita, good VFR as well. Portage, VFR, everybody VFR, including Chilkoot and White. Freezing levels at the surface, up into the Copper River Basin area, northern Cook Inlet, then down along the southwest coast there, just north of St. Matthew Island. Otherwise, 2,000 feet up to the east and southeast side of Kodiak Island and cutting eastward across Prince of Wales Island. And for icing, kind of a band of potential elevated icing threats there from the southwest coast and actually into the interior, Bristol Bay, southern Kuskokwim Valley, of the isolated moderate variety, probably considerable moderate possible for Kodiak Island, and then some icing just grazing the southern Panhandle. Next big batch way out to the west there, maybe creeping into Shimia and Attu. And the jet stream, that associated way out there with that southerly flow, but upper level low over the eastern Bering Sea, and then a flow coming over the top of about 75 to 85 knots, basically from the west turning northwest over the eastern interior with high pressure over southern Alaska. And at 9,000 feet, upper level ridging in the interior, slowly giving way a little bit, allowing southeast flow of 45 knots there into the west coast. And at 3,000 feet, pretty good winds there just west of Shimian at 270 to 80 knots with that storm from the west-southwest. Southeast winds 70 knots coming across northeast Bristol Bay from Kodiak Island, and southeast 40 over the Seward Peninsula. Turbulence, moderate chop, southern Kenai Peninsula, southern Cook Inlet to Kodiak Island, and increasing over the western Aleutians.
It's kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the strata starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. 1 week ago, on the 27th of February, this is what the ice edge looked like, the ice pack out in the Bering Sea, and then taking a look at today, 1 week later, and you can see retreating back to the north and also really breaking up along the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coastline and on into Bristol Bay, quite a reduction in ice there, as well as Cook Inlet. And that trend probably going to continue for at least the next couple of days, several days. And for the coastal water forecast, along the coast, all winds out of the east. On the south coast, 15 to 20 knots, and the north coast, east at about 20 knots. Small craft advisories, northern inner channels for north winds at 30 knots with 6-foot seas. Stevens Passage, north winds 20 knots, higher gusts, and northeast 15 for Clarence Strait. Looking ahead to Tuesday, outer coastline winds stay pretty much from the east, central north coast at about 15 knots, seas a little under 10 feet, and the south coast northeast at 20 with 8-foot seas, and central southern inside waters, north winds 20 knots, seas right around 4 feet for Clarence Strait on up into Stevens Passage and other areas there, and then Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, northern inside waters. Small craft advisories, north winds increasing to 30 knots, seas building to 6 feet. Small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast on Monday, east-northeasterlies 25 to 30 knots. Gale warnings for the Barren Islands, east winds 35 knots and northeast 30 knots for Kamishak Bay and southern Cook Inlet. North of the Forelands, though, northeast at 15. And same thing for Prince William Sound, northeast winds 15 knots and seas around 2 feet. Even lighter winds in store for Prince William Sound on Tuesday, northeast at 10, seas still pretty slight, and the North Gulf Coast, east winds 20 to 25 knots. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands, east winds at 30 knots, northeast 30 knots, Kamishak Bay. Small craft advisories continue, southern Cook Inlet, north winds 25 knots, northeast 10, north of the Forelands. Kodiak Island, gale warnings, east and northeast winds 30 to 40 knots, strongest at Chillicothe Strait. Alaska Peninsula, east and northeast winds at 20 knots, and Bristol Bay, northeast at 30. And for the outlook on Tuesday, Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisories, east and southeast winds blowing across the area there at 25 to 30 knots. Small craft advisories, Bristol Bay, east winds 25 knots. Kodiak Island, 40-knot winds continue out of the northeast and Chillicothe Strait, otherwise small craft advisories for east winds 25 knots. Eastern Aleutians tomorrow, Monday, north winds 15 to 20 knots. Adak and Atka, not too bad. East winds at about 15 knots, 6 to 10 foot seas. And then the winds increase west of Adak, Amchitka Island, gale warnings, southeast 35 knots. Storm warnings, Kiska to Shemya for southeast winds of 50 knots. And gales continue, or lose the storms. The storm warnings come down to gale warnings from Shemya to Kiska, east winds 40 knots. 40-knot easterlies extend over toward Adak, but for the east central Aleutians themselves, east winds 25 to 30 knots and 20 to 25 knot easterly winds for the Fox Islands. Southwest coast, strongest winds south of Nunivak Island, where they'll be northeast at 30 knots. Pribilofs northeast 15. Brisk wind advisories, Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island, east winds 25 knots. And for Tuesday, lighter winds for St. Lawrence Island coming down northeast at 15 and 20 to 25 knot winds out of the northeast for the southwest coast. Small craft advisory, St. Matthew Island, northeast at 30, and the Pribilofs looking at east winds at 20 knots for Tuesday. Winds really coming down on the eastern Arctic coast from what they were today. For tomorrow, northwest 10 to 15 knots, east 15 for the central coast. Brisk wind advisories for the western Arctic coast and from Cape Thompson to Wales for east winds at 25 knots. From Wales to Cape Beaufort on Tuesday, north winds 15 knots, but brisk wind advisories for the central and western Arctic coast. East winds 25 to 30 knots there. Eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, east winds at 20 knots. For tonight, blizzard warning continues till midnight for the Kaktovik-Barter Island area for winds 55 miles an hour, but that'll be improving after midnight. As you can see, a lot slacker gradient up there. Dry over interior Alaska, mostly clear in a lot of areas, and temperatures a little colder. Rain and snow moving into Kodiak Island, and tomorrow, mostly sunny over a big chunk of interior Alaska, but increasing clouds and moisture as you head southwest toward Bristol Bay. Chance of rain and snow over the southern panhandle. And the following day on Tuesday, better chance of snow central and especially the western part of the state.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.